The massive ships appeared out of nowhere, dark metal shapes against the black of space. They came in a long line, 47 warships, each bigger than any city on Earth. Their hulls gleamed with strange lights, and energy crackled along their weapons. Commander Vex Thull stood on the bridge of the flagship, his 6 arms folded behind his back. His large yellow eyes studied the blue and green planet ahead. Earth looked so peaceful, so unprotected, just like all the other worlds they had conquered. "Report," he said to his weapons officer. "All ships ready for attack, Commander. The humans have some small space stations and a few tiny ships, but nothing that could stop us." Vex Thull nodded. The intelligence reports were clear. Humans were a young species. Barely 200 years into their industrial age, they had split the atom only recently and sent their first rockets to space just decades ago. They were perfect for conquest. The Zephyrian Empire had done this dance 1,000 times before. Find a weak planet, demand surrender, and if they refused, blast their cities from orbit until they begged for mercy, then take their resources and make them slaves. Simple and clean. "Send the surrender message," Vex Thull ordered. The communications officer typed commands into his console. "Message sent. Commander. Standard terms. Surrender in 72 Earth hours, or face total destruction." Vex Thull walked to the large window that showed Earth below. Such a pretty planet. It would make a nice addition to the Empire. The humans would work in the mines, and their world would feed the Empire's war machine. On Earth, people gathered around their televisions and computer screens. The alien message played in every language on the planet. The voice was cold and mechanical. "Humans of Earth, you are now subjects of the Zephyrian Empire. You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely. Open your communication channels and prepare for our arrival. If you resist, your cities will burn and your people will die. This is your only warning." In government buildings around the world, emergency meetings started. Presidents and prime ministers argued in heated voices. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded they fight. But in a secret bunker deep under the mountains of Switzerland, Director Sarah Chen sat calmly at her desk. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Around her, screens showed the alien ships waiting in space. "Ma'am," said her aide, a young man named Marcus. "The president wants to know what we should do." Sarah smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Tell him we decline their offer." "Ma'am? Are you sure? Those ships could destroy our entire planet." "Could they?" Sarah asked. She pressed a button on her desk. "Get me Admiral Harrison." A face appeared on the screen, an older man with white hair and scars on his face. "Director Chen, I've been waiting for this call for 30 years. How long until we're ready, Admiral?" "All systems are green, ma'am. We've been ready since 1987. Sarah nodded. "Good. Send the reply." Sarah, back on the Zephyrian flagship, the communications officer looked confused. "Commander, we've received Earth's response. Already? Excellent. I assume they've surrendered." The officer hesitated. "No, sir. The message is very short. It just says, 'We decline.'" Vex Thull turned around, his yellow eyes narrowing. "They what?" "They declined, sir. That's all the message says." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Vex Thull had conquered 43 worlds. He had never received a message like this. "Perhaps they don't understand," he said finally. "Send the message again. Make it clearer." The second message was harsher. Images of destroyed cities filled Earth's screens. Videos of alien weapons turning mountains into glass. The voice promised pain and death for anyone who resisted. But again, the reply came back the same. "We decline." On Earth, something strange was happening. Instead of panic, there was calm. Emergency services moved people from cities in perfect order. It was not the chaos of a scared population. It was organized, planned, like they had practiced this 1,000 times before. Major cities emptied in hours. But the people didn't run to the countryside. They went to specific places. Underground bunkers that officially didn't exist. Hidden shelters that weren't on any map. In schools and offices around the world, certain people received coded messages on their phones. They put down whatever they were doing, kissed their families goodbye, and disappeared. These people had been waiting their whole lives for this moment. The alien ships moved closer to Earth. Vexthul studied the reports from his scouts. The humans were moving, but not like any species he had seen before. They weren't running in random panic. They had plans. "Commander," said his intelligence officer, a thin creature with 4 eyes. "The humans are evacuating their cities, but something is strange." "What do you mean?" "They're leaving their important buildings empty, but they're taking specific equipment with them. Military hardware, computer systems, scientific instruments, and sir," the officer paused. "What?" "They're broadcasting on frequencies we can't decode. Whatever language they're using, it's not in our computers." Vexthul felt the first small worry in his chest. In 43 conquests, the aliens had always used simple radio waves that his computers could translate easily. But Earth's signals were different. They were complex, layered, almost like they were designed to be hidden. "How long until we can break their code?" "Unknown, sir. It might be some primitive cipher, or—" The officer stopped. "Or what?" "Or it's more advanced than anything in our databases." That was impossible. Vexthul pushed the thought away. These were humans, a young, weak species with simple technology. His ships carried weapons that could crack planets. His soldiers had energy shields and plasma rifles. What could these primitives possibly do? But as the fleet moved closer to Earth, more strange reports came in. Human satellites weren't just watching the alien ships. They were scanning them with sensors that shouldn't exist. The scans were detailed, precise, like the humans were studying every bolt and wire on the Zephyrian vessels. "Sir," called the weapons officer, "should we destroy their satellites?" Vexthul considered this. It would be easy to do. But it would also show the humans exactly what Zephyrian weapons could do. Better to let them watch and be afraid. No, let them look. Soon they'll see what real power looks like. But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, the humans weren't looking because they were afraid. Maybe they were looking because they were learning. The 72 hours ticked down. Earth's reply never changed. "We decline." And somewhere in the darkness of space, hidden things began to move. The 72 hours ended at exactly midnight. Earth time. Vexthul gave the order, and the invasion began. Zephyrian dropships fell from the sky like metal meteors, their shields glowing bright orange as they cut through Earth's atmosphere. Each ship carried 50 soldiers armed with plasma rifles and wearing energy armor that could stop any primitive bullet. The first landing zone was New York City. The soldiers expected to find millions of terrified humans hiding in buildings. Instead, they found empty streets and silence. Captain Zektar led the first squad through Times Square. His soldiers moved in perfect formation, their weapons ready. But there was nothing to shoot at. The humans had vanished. "Where are they?" asked Sergeant Voxman, his plasma rifle scanning the empty windows above. "Hiding like cowards," Zektar replied. But something felt wrong. The city was too empty, too clean. Even the abandoned cars were parked in neat lines, as if someone had organized them. Then the first shot came. The bullet hit Zektar in the chest and bounced off his energy armor. He laughed. "Primitive weapons! Show yourselves, humans!" But more shots came from everywhere. From windows, from rooftops, from sewers. The humans were using simple metal bullets. But they were aiming for gaps in the armor. For joints and seams. They had studied Zephyrian equipment and found its weak points. One soldier screamed as a bullet found the small gap under his helmet. Another fell when a sniper's shot hit the power pack on his back. The humans weren't just shooting. They were cutting the aliens apart with surgical precision. "How do they know where to aim?" Voxman shouted over the gunfire. Zektar didn't answer. He was watching something impossible. A human soldier had appeared in the street ahead, carrying one of their primitive projectile weapons. But when Zektar fired his plasma rifle, the human wasn't there anymore. He had moved faster than should be possible for such a weak species. The human popped up behind a car and fired 3 quick shots. All 3 hit different Zephyrian soldiers in exactly the right spots to disable their armor. Then, the human vanished again. "Sir," Voxman pointed up at a building. "Look, on the roof, a human was setting up some kind of device. It looked like their primitive technology. But when it fired, the energy blast that came out was pure Zephyrian plasma." "Impossible," Zektar whispered. "They can't have our technology." But they did. Somehow, the humans had weapons that looked crude, but fired energy beams as powerful as anything the Zephyrian military possessed. All across Earth, the same scene played out. In London, Berlin, Tokyo, and a dozen other cities, Zephyrian forces met resistance that made no sense. The humans fought like they had been preparing for this exact invasion their entire lives. In Moscow, a squad of Zephyrian soldiers found themselves trapped in the subway system. Every tunnel they entered led to another ambush. The humans had turned their own city into a maze, designed to kill aliens. In Tokyo, human soldiers used mirrors and lights to confuse Zephyrian targeting systems. In Berlin, they had somehow poisoned the air with chemicals that made Zephyrian breathing apparatus fail. But the most disturbing reports came from Paris. Major Kixval watched the video feed in horror. His soldiers had cornered a group of human fighters in a dead-end alley. It should have been an easy kill, but when the smoke cleared, all 12 Zephyrian soldiers were dead, and the humans had vanished. "How?" he asked his aide. "We don't know, sir. The humans seemed to know exactly how our weapons worked, exactly how our armor moved, exactly how to kill us quickly." "Run it again." The video played in slow motion. The humans moved like dancers, flowing around plasma blasts that should have killed them. They used weapons that fired simple metal. But those bullets hit power sources, joint connections, and breathing units with perfect accuracy. "It's like they've fought Zephyrians before," the aide whispered. That was impossible. Humans had never left their solar system. They had never seen alien technology until today. Yet they fought like veterans who had studied Zephyrian weaknesses for years. On the flagship, Admiral Kethvar read the reports with growing alarm. The humans were not just resisting, they were winning. In 6 hours of fighting, they had killed over 2,000 Zephyrian soldiers while losing fewer than 300 of their own. "Commander Vexthul," he called. "We need to discuss the situation." Vexthul entered the command center looking shaken. His perfect uniform was wrinkled, and his yellow eyes were wide with confusion. "Admiral, the humans are. They're not what we expected." "Explain." "They're using our own tactics against us. When we try to surround them, they vanish through tunnels we didn't know existed. When we use our plasma weapons, they have shields that shouldn't work, but do. And their bullets." Vexthul paused. "What about their bullets?" "They're not just lead and copper, sir. Analysis shows they're made of metals we've never seen before. Metals that seem specifically designed to pierce our armor." Admiral Kethvar felt cold. "How is that possible?" "I don't know, sir, but there's something else." Vexthul activated a screen showing intercepted human communications. But instead of the simple radio waves they expected, the screen showed something that looked like advanced quantum encryption. "Sir, these aren't primitive signals. This is technology that's more advanced than ours." "That's impossible." "Yes, sir, but the evidence is clear. The humans have been talking to each other using communication systems that our best computers can't decode." As if to prove his point, the screen suddenly filled with new data. Human forces were coordinating attacks across the entire planet in perfect synchronization. They were sharing information instantly across thousands of miles, planning strategies in real time. "How long would it take to develop communication technology like this?" the Admiral asked. "For us, maybe 50 years, sir." "And how long have humans had radio?" "According to our intelligence, about 100 years. The two Zephyrians stared at each other. The math was impossible. Humans couldn't have developed such advanced technology so quickly. Unless they've had help," Vexthul said quietly. Help from who? Before he could answer, alarms began screaming throughout the ship. On the main screen, something impossible appeared. Human ships were rising from Earth's surface, not the primitive rockets they had been told about, but sleek, fast vessels that moved like hunting birds. Where did those come from? Admiral Kethvar demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors show they're made of materials that shouldn't exist. The human ships moved with deadly grace, their weapons charging with energy signatures that registered on Zephyrian instruments as completely new forms of technology. Sir, called the communications officer, we're receiving a message from Earth. Put it through. A woman's voice filled the command center, calm and cold. This is Director Sarah Chen of the Terra Defense Consortium. You have attacked our world and killed our people. We tried to warn you. We told you to leave. You chose to ignore our warning. Terra Defense Consortium? Admiral Kethvar whispered. That's not in our intelligence reports. The woman's voice continued. You wanted to see what humanity is capable of. Now you will learn. The screen went dark, and in the space around Earth, more human ships began to appear. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, massive doors that had been sealed for 40 years slowly ground open. The sound echoed through tunnels carved from living rock, tunnels that officially didn't exist on any government map. Director Sarah Chen walked through these hidden corridors with calm, measured steps. Behind her, Admiral James Harrison and Dr. Elena Vasquez followed, their faces grim but determined. How long since we sealed these levels? Sarah asked. 43 years, ma'am, Admiral Harrison replied. Not since we confirmed the first alien probe crashed in Nevada. They reached a massive elevator that descended far deeper than any normal building. The walls were lined with symbols that looked nothing like human writing. Because they weren't human writing at all. Status report, Sarah commanded as they rode down. Dr. Vasquez checked her tablet. All hidden fleets are in position. The Mars shipyards have been producing for 60 years. Our asteroid mining operations have been stockpiling materials since 1985, and the Jupiter construction platforms completed the last dreadnought 3 months ago. Personnel? Every major government has been feeding us their best people for decades. We have over 2 million humans who've been training for this moment since childhood. They know nothing but how to fight aliens. See, the elevator stopped, and the doors opened onto something impossible. It was a command center larger than any city, filled with technology that seemed to blend human engineering with designs that were clearly not of Earth. Massive screens showed real-time views of space around Earth, but the images were clearer and more detailed than anything normal human satellites could produce. My God, Admiral Harrison whispered, even though he had helped build this place. I still can't believe we pulled it off. Sarah smiled grimly. The world thinks we've been struggling to reach Mars with primitive rockets. They have no idea we've had cities on Europa for 20 years. She walked to the central command station where a man in a strange uniform was waiting. His name was Colonel Marcus Webb, and he had been born and raised in facilities like this one. He had never lived on Earth's surface. He knew nothing about normal human life. All he knew was war. Colonel, status of our fleets. All ships ready, Director. The Sol Defense Fleet is declocking as we speak. Our deep space interceptors are moving to surround the alien force, and the long-range strike groups are preparing to jump to the enemy's home system. Home system? Sarah raised an eyebrow. Yes, ma'am. We've had the coordinates for 15 years, ever since we captured that scout ship near Pluto. Our deep space probes have been mapping Zephyrian space for over a decade. On the main screen, something beautiful and terrible began to happen. Around Earth, space itself seemed to ripple and bend. Then, one by one, human warships began to appear. They were nothing like the primitive rockets the world knew about. These ships were sleek predators. Their hulls made from materials that seemed to drink in starlight. Their weapons glowed with energies that made Zephyrian plasma look like candle flames. Admiral Harrison counted the ships as they appeared. 47 Zephyrian vessels. And how many of ours? Sarah asked. 312. Plus our mobile weapons platforms, our fighter squadrons, and the orbital defense networks. But numbers weren't the real advantage. The real advantage was time. Dr. Vasquez pulled up files on her computer that were marked with the highest security classifications. Ma'am, should I brief you on Project Looking Glass, the psychological analysis program? Yes. We've been studying Zephyrian behavior for 60 years, ever since the first crash. We know how they think, how they fight, how they make decisions. We've run millions of computer simulations of this exact scenario. Oh, and they're predictable, ma'am. They conquer weak species, so they think in terms of overwhelming force against helpless enemies. They've never fought anyone who could fight back effectively. On the screens above them, the human ships moved into attack positions with perfect coordination. But they didn't attack immediately. Instead, they began broadcasting. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Force," came her voice over all frequencies. "Zephyrian forces, you have invaded our world based on false intelligence. You believe humanity is a young, weak species. This belief is incorrect. The Zephyrian fleet, still orbiting Earth, seemed frozen in confusion. Their sensors were showing human ships that shouldn't exist, using technology they couldn't identify. We have been aware of your empire for over 70 years, the Admiral continued. We have studied your technology, your tactics, your psychology. We know the locations of all your major worlds, your trade routes, your military installations. In the command center beneath the Alps, Sarah watched the alien fleet's reaction. Their ships were trying to scan the human vessels, but their sensors couldn't penetrate human shielding technology. "How is our cloaking holding up?" she asked. "Perfect, ma'am. They can't see through our stealth systems because we built them specifically to fool Zephyrian sensors. And our weapons? Ready to fire. Each of our ships carries weapons designed from studying 40 years of captured alien technology, but improved. On the Zephyrian flagship, chaos was taking over. Commander Vex Thol stared at his screens in disbelief. His sensors were telling him impossible things. "How many human ships?" he demanded. "Over 300, sir." "But that's impossible. Our intelligence showed they had maybe 12 primitive vessels. Where did they come from?" "Unknown, sir. They appeared from nowhere. And our scanners can't penetrate their hulls to see what kind of weapons they carry." Admiral Kethvar joined him on the bridge, his face pale. "Commander, we need to consider retreat." "Retreat? From humans?" "Look at the tactical display, sir." Vex Thol looked. The human ships had surrounded the Zephyrian fleet completely. They had moved into position with the kind of precision that took decades of training and experience. "Sir," called the communications officer, "the humans are broadcasting again. Put it through." Admiral Vasquez's voice filled the bridge. "We know about your empire's standard tactics. You threaten. You invade. You conquer. You've done this to 43 other species, but those species weren't ready for you." A pause. "We were." New information flowed across the screens. The human ships were showing the Zephyrians exactly what they were carrying. Weapons that fired pure energy, shields that could stop any known force, engines that bent space itself. "Commander," whispered the intelligence officer, "these humans have technology that's centuries ahead of ours." "That's impossible. They're a primitive species." "No, sir. They wanted us to think they were primitive. Look at this." The officer brought up analysis of human communications. Instead of the simple radio waves the Zephyrians expected, the humans were using quantum entanglement networks, gravitational wave transmissions, and other technologies the Zephyrian Empire had only dreamed of. "Sir, they've been listening to our communications for decades. They know our language better than some of our own people. They've been planning this response for longer than most of our soldiers have been alive." On the human flagship, Admiral Vasquez turned to her weapons officer. "Target their engines first. We want them alive long enough to send a message home." "Yes, ma'am. Weapons locked on all targets." "Sarah," she said into her communicator, "are you ready to show them what humanity really looks like?" In the command center, Director Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Begin the demonstration, Admiral. All ships, Admiral Vasquez announced. Execute Protocol Annihilation. And the trap that humanity had spent 70 years building finally closed. The first human weapon fired, and reality bent. The beam that emerged from Admiral Vasquez's flagship was not the crude plasma that Zephyrians used. It was something far worse. A focused stream of pure energy that tore through space itself, reaching out across thousands of miles to touch the nearest Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ship's shields, designed to stop any known weapon, simply vanished. The energy beam passed through the hull like it was made of paper, and the massive warship broke apart in complete silence. Target destroyed, reported the weapons officer with calm efficiency. Commander Vexthul watched in horror as one of his most powerful ships died in a single shot. Return fire! All ships, return fire now! The Zephyrian fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma beams and particle cannons lit up space with deadly colors. Missiles streaked toward the human ships, each one carrying enough explosive power to level a city. None of it mattered. The human ships moved like living things, flowing around the incoming fire with impossible grace. Their shields absorbed direct hits from weapons that should have destroyed them, and the energy was simply redirected back at their attackers. How are they doing this? Admiral Kethvar demanded. His science officer, a creature with multiple eyes that could see different types of energy, was studying the readings. Sir, their technology operates on principles we don't understand. They're not just deflecting our weapons. They're converting our attack energy into power for their own systems. 1. On the human flagship, Admiral Vasquez watched the Zephyrian attacks with professional interest. Energy conversion, at 96% efficiency, she noted. Their plasma is actually charging our weapon systems. Should we return fire, ma'am? Not yet. Let them waste their ammunition first. I want them to understand exactly how outmatched they are before we finish this. Captain Elena Vasquez had been born on a hidden space station orbiting Neptune. She had trained for this battle since she was 5 years old. Like thousands of other humans raised in secret military facilities, she knew nothing but war, and war was all she had ever wanted. The human fleet began to move. They didn't charge forward like angry animals. They flowed through space in perfect formations, each ship supporting the others, creating killing zones that no Zephyrian vessel could escape. The TDC battleship Ragnarok, Vasquez's flagship, led the attack. It was 3 times larger than any Zephyrian dreadnought, and its weapons had been designed by studying 60 years of captured alien technology. Target the command ship, Vasquez ordered. Non-lethal strikes. We want prisoners for interrogation. The Ragnarok's secondary weapons fired. These were not the massive reality-bending cannons, but smaller precision instruments designed for capture, not destruction. Blue beams reached out and began systematically destroying every weapon system on Vexisthal's flagship while leaving the hull intact. Our weapons are offline, screamed the Zephyrian weapons officer. Engineering reports total power failure in sections 1 through 7. Engines? Damaged but functional, sir. Then run. All ships, retreat immediately. But when the Zephyrian ships tried to flee, they discovered something terrible. Human vessels were already waiting at every escape route. The enemy had predicted exactly where the aliens would try to go. Impossible, Vexthul whispered. How did they know? The answer came from his intelligence officer, who was reading intercepted human communications. Sir, they've been studying our tactical manuals for decades. They know our standard retreat patterns better than we do. Meanwhile, the systematic destruction continued. Human fighters, small and fast as arrows, darted between the larger ships. They moved with the kind of precision that only came from genetic enhancement and neural linking, technologies that officially didn't exist in human civilization. These pilots had been bred for war. Their reflexes had been enhanced since birth. Their minds had been connected directly to their ship's computer systems. They thought at the speed of machines and moved like extensions of their vessels. Each fighter carried weapons that could cut through Zephyrian armor like it was cloth. But they weren't just destroying things randomly. They were following a plan that had been developed over decades of preparation. Target their communication arrays, came the order from Admiral Vasquez. I want them isolated and afraid. The fighters struck with surgical precision. Communication dishes, sensor arrays, and navigation systems died under focused fire. Soon, the Zephyrian ships couldn't talk to each other, couldn't coordinate their defense, couldn't even see clearly what was attacking them. One by one, the alien vessels were crippled and captured. Human boarding parties teleported directly onto disabled ships, using technology the Zephyrians didn't know was possible. These boarders were the most terrifying humans of all. They had been raised in zero gravity, trained to fight in the corridors of spaceships. Their weapons were designed to work in enclosed spaces, and their tactics were perfect for ship-to-ship combat. More importantly, they knew exactly how Zephyrian technology worked. They had studied captured alien equipment for their entire lives. They could disable alien systems faster than the aliens themselves. Surrender your weapons. The human boarding teams commanded in perfect Zephyrian language. Resist, and you will be terminated. The aliens who tried to fight back died quickly. The humans moved through their ships like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, striking without warning. Those who surrendered were taken alive for questioning. In the interrogation rooms of the human ships, Zephyrian prisoners faced something they had never experienced, an enemy that knew more about their own technology than they did. Dr. James Harrison led the interrogation teams. He was an expert in alien psychology who had spent 40 years preparing for this moment. He knew how Zephyrian minds worked, what they feared, how to break their resistance. "Tell me about your homeworld," he said to a captured Zephyrian officer. "I will tell you nothing." Dr. Harrison smiled and activated a screen. On it appeared detailed maps of the Zephyrian home system, complete with military installations, population centers, and defensive positions. "We already know everything," he said quietly. "We've been watching you for 60 years. We know where you live, how many children you have, what you eat for breakfast. We know your weaknesses, your fears, your secrets." The alien's face went pale. "How is this possible?" "Because, while you were conquering primitive species, we were studying you. Every probe you sent to our system was captured and analyzed. Every communication you broadcast was intercepted and decoded. Every ship you lost in deep space was found and dissected." "You're lying." Dr. Harrison showed him more screens. Detailed analysis of Zephyrian biology, psychology, technology, and culture. Information that could only have been gathered through decades of careful observation. "Your empire has a fatal flaw," Harrison explained. "You only know how to fight weak enemies. You've never faced anyone who could fight back. That made you predictable." The battle was ending. Of the 47 Zephyrian ships that had arrived to conquer Earth, 38 had been captured intact. 8 had been completely destroyed when their crews tried to fight to the death. Only one remained partially functional. That ship was Commander Vex's Thul's flagship, and Admiral Vasquez was saving it for last. Commander Vex Thul sat in his damaged command chair, watching the stars through the cracked window of his bridge. His fleet was gone. His empire was about to die, and he finally understood what humanity really was. Around his crippled flagship, human ships waited like patient hunters. They could have destroyed him at any time, but they didn't. They wanted him alive, and that was somehow more terrifying than death. "Commander," his communications officer called, his voice shaking. "The humans are broadcasting to our homeworld. Put it through." The message came in perfect Zephyrian, spoken by a human who had clearly studied their language for years. "People of Zeph Prime, your invasion fleet has been destroyed. Your military technology has been captured. Your coordinates and strategic information are now in our possession." A pause. "You have 12 hours to evacuate your military installations. Any ship or station that shows hostile intent after this time will be destroyed without warning. This is your only opportunity to save civilian lives." Vexthul felt cold. "They're going to attack our homeworld?" But even as he spoke, his sensors detected something impossible. Space around Earth was bending, reality itself twisting as massive human ships prepared to jump across the galaxy. "Sir," whispered the science officer, "those ships, They're using faster-than-light travel that should be impossible. They'll reach our territory before any warning message could arrive. Admiral Vasquez's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined, like someone who had been planning this moment her entire life. Commander Vexthal, I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Force. Do you understand what is about to happen? You're going to destroy my people, he said quietly. Yes, but first, you're going to help us do it efficiently. Never. Look at your screen, Commander. New images appeared. They showed Zephyrian civilian populations being evacuated from military targets. Human ships had already arrived in Zephyrian space and were coordinating the removal of non-combatants from areas marked for destruction. We're not monsters, Admiral Vasquez explained. We don't kill civilians. But your military, your government, your entire war machine will cease to exist. The question is whether you help us minimize civilian casualties, or whether we do this the hard way. Stan. Vexthal stared at the impossible images. How did you get ships to our territory so fast? We've had ships in your territory for 20 years, Commander. We've been preparing for this war longer than you've been alive. The truth hit him like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their technology on Earth. They had been secretly spreading across the galaxy, building hidden bases, studying alien civilizations, preparing for the day when someone would threaten them. How many species have you been watching? All of them. 6 months later, the galaxy was very different. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled 50 star systems for over 1,000 years, was gone. Not conquered, not occupied, simply erased. Their homeworld was now a lifeless rock with a single monument at its former capital. Other alien civilizations had watched in terror as human fleets appeared simultaneously at every major Zephyrian installation. The attacks were perfectly coordinated, impossibly precise, and completely overwhelming. Each Zephyrian world faced the same pattern. Human ships would appear and broadcast an evacuation order. Civilians had 12 hours to leave all military targets. Then the humans would systematically destroy everything related to the Zephyrian military while carefully avoiding harm to non-combatants. It was not a conquest. It was an extermination campaign carried out with surgical precision and cold efficiency. The Altarian Republic, neighbors of the former Zephyrian Empire, sent desperate messages to Earth asking for peace talks. The response was simple. Earth is not interested in conquest. Earth is interested in being left alone. Do not threaten our world, and you will have nothing to fear from us. But other messages began spreading through galactic communication networks. Messages that made alien leaders check their star charts and reconsider their expansion plans. The first message was a complete recording of the battle that had destroyed the Zephyrian fleet. Every alien military analyst who watched it came to the same conclusion. Humanity's technology was centuries ahead of anything in known space. The second message was more disturbing. It was a catalog of human observation posts throughout the galaxy, many in star systems where aliens thought they were completely alone. The humans had been watching everyone for decades. The third message was the most frightening. It was a simple list of coordinates. The locations of every major alien military installation, government center, and population hub in the galaxy. The message ended with the words, "We know where you live." On Earth. Director Sarah Chen stood in her office reading reports from across the galaxy. Alien civilizations were pulling back their expansion fleets, canceling invasion plans, and desperately trying to appear non-threatening. "Ma'am," her aide Marcus asked, "what do we do now?" "We've achieved our primary objective." Sarah looked out her window at the peaceful Swiss mountains. Most of humanity still had no idea what had really happened. The official story was that aliens had attacked and been driven off by a lucky combination of new technology and brave defense. "Now we go back to waiting," she said. "We maintain the illusion that we're just a simple species that got lucky. We keep our real capabilities hidden. And we watch. For how long? Forever. If necessary. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology, Marcus. It's our patience. We can wait centuries for the right moment to act. She activated a secure communication channel that connected her to hidden human installations across the galaxy. On the screen appeared faces of military commanders, scientists, and intelligence officers stationed on worlds that officially had never been visited by humans. "Status report," she commanded. "All sectors quiet, ma'am," came the replies. "Alien military activity has decreased by 70% across all monitored regions. No species is showing signs of aggressive expansion toward Terra or human-controlled space. Good. Maintain surveillance protocols. If anyone starts looking threatening again..." "Yes, ma'am. We'll be ready." The communication ended, and Sarah returned to her window. Somewhere in the mountains below, hidden facilities continued their work. Human scientists studied captured alien technology. Human engineers built even more advanced weapons. Human strategists planned for threats that might not emerge for 1,000 years. And across the galaxy, alien civilizations learned a new rule of survival. Earth was not to be touched. Humanity was not to be threatened. And those who forgot these lessons would join the Zephyrian Empire in the void. The humans had returned to their apparent primitiveness, sending simple radio signals and launching basic rockets, acting like a species just beginning to explore space. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity wasn't primitive. They were predators. And they were watching.